The Philadelphia Eagles defense is expected to be one of the best in the NFL this upcoming season after having a historic 2022 campaign as a unit, in addition to making some fascinating new acquisitions this offseason while retaining a lot of their top talent, a lot of which have been making headlines in recent days. But arguably the key to the Eagles defense being successful in 2023 is a guy who was with the team last year, but never got an opportunity to make a big impact, and that is Nakobe Dean, as there is a very real argument to be made that Nakobe Dean is the key to unleashing the Eagles defense's full potential in 2023. So we're going to talk about all that in this video today, so let's not waste any time and get straight into it. The Eagles defense just had a dominant season, as they statistically were among the best in the NFL in most statistical defensive categories, including being number 2 in yards per game, number 7 in points per game, number 1 in pass yards per game, number 4 in turnovers, and of course number 1 in sacks, finishing with 70 on the season, which was the best mark in Eagles history and the third best mark by any NFL team in a single season. And when people think about the main reasons for the Eagles' defensive success last year, the number one reason that comes to mind is obviously the defensive line and the pass rush that the Eagles had, and that's followed up by, of course, the secondary, as the Eagles boasted one of the best groups of defensive backs in the NFL in 2022. So in turn, the linebacking group that the Eagles had last year gets forgotten about, but that's not to say that they weren't very solid as well. As the Eagles' 2 starting linebackers in 2022 each respectively had very solid seasons. First, TJ Edwards, obviously the defense's signal caller last year, he put up some career best stats, including 159 combined tackles and 99 solo tackles, both of which led the team, 2 sacks and 7 passes defended. And then on the other hand, Kyzir White had a solid year as well, putting up 110 combined tackles, which was second on the team, 66 solo tackles, 1.5 sacks, and 7 passes defended. So I mean, sure, there's no denying the fact that these two weren't the biggest stars on the defense last year, but their role certainly can't be understated, and both definitely had a hand in the Eagles' defensive success throughout the season. But now heading into this year, both of these guys are obviously gone, as TJ Edwards signed with the Chicago Bears in free agency, while Kyzir White decided to head to Arizona, and those departures inevitably left a huge hole right in the middle of the Eagles' defense. And now even at this point in the offseason, with training camp right around the corner, people are still wondering whether that hole has actually been filled or not, because to be quite frank, the Eagles didn't really do much to address it in this offseason. I mean, sure, they added linebacker Nicholas Morrow from the Bears, but there have even been questions in recent weeks as to whether Morrow will actually end up being the starter for the Eagles by the time we get to week 1. Now, for the record, I think he will end up starting for this team, but so with all the uncertainty at linebacker heading into the season, the pressure only continues to mount for second-year linebacker Nakobe Dean. Now, Dean captained one of the most stacked defenses in the history of college football with Georgia in 2021, and he obviously was a big part of them winning the national championship that year, and he undoubtedly performed like a first-round pick. So when he fell all the way to the 3rd round, the Eagles simply couldn't pass up on the opportunity, and they selected him. Now, obviously he didn't have a very big role for the defense in 2022 because he was stuck behind TJ Edwards and Kyzir White on the depth chart, but that's all set to change in 2023, as it's very well known that Dean is expected to have a huge role for this defense this year, and again, with so much uncertainty at the linebacker position for the Eagles, the expectations for Dean are extremely high. So high, in fact, that he has made recent headlines, as Joseph Santoliquito of Bleeding Green Nation recently wrote an article titled "Will the 2023 Eagles' Success Fall on Nakobe Dean's Shoulders?" in which he highlighted just how important Nakobe is going to be for this team this year, as he goes on to say things like, quote, "If Dean doesn't perform as projected, the Eagles will have to win shootouts in 2023, end quote. He will be counted on to be a leader for the Eagles defense this year." Then, Santoliquito goes on to quote highly regarded Eagles writer Ray Dininger, as he said, quote, "I think Dean is going to be really good. I agree he will be a major player in the Eagles 2023 picture. I think the Eagles are going to score a ton of points. They're going to be as explosive and dynamic as they were last year. I don't think that is going to change, but the defense initially is going to be a work in progress. You must fill a couple of significant holes. Hargrave was a good player who will not be all that easy to replace. I would put Gardner Johnson in with him, and that's right down the middle of your defense. Then you have to replace your leading tackler, who was Edwards, their middle linebacker. The Eagles will need to figure out who replaces that production, and they're going to have to do it with a new defensive coordinator. A lot of that will revolve around Dean. When you look at the whole picture of the Eagles, they're going to rely on Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and I would put Dean right up there really high if the Eagles are going to get back to the Super Bowl. Dean is going to have to take charge out there with a new defensive coordinator and new pieces around him. He's the one who's going to have the radio in his helmet. Now, just to try and unpack that whole thing, essentially what both Dininger and Santoliquito are saying here is that in order for the Eagles defense to be successful and reach its full potential this year, Nakobe Dean is going to have to step up. They're relying on him to replace their production of TJ Edwards, and I think that they probably would expect him to lead this team in tackles in 2023. And in addition to that, like Santoliquito said, they're going to be relying on him as a leader for this defense because he's the one that's going to be getting the play calls, and he's going to be coordinating the defense out on the field. Now, this was pretty much confirmed back in OTAs when Nicholas Morrow was asked during a press conference who has the green dot, and he confirmed that it was Dean who was going to have that honor this year. I mean, it's become very obvious that Dean is going to be one of the most crucial players on this defense in 2023, and like I said, they're going to need him to step up big time, and he certainly seems ready to do that, as he said this back in May. Take a listen.
They ready for me to step up, and I feel like I'm ready to step up. I've been ready, but it's time to actually do it now. It's time for me to put out whatever I can do for this team to, like I said, win ultimately. I'm ready to do it.
Dean's mentality will surely serve him well heading into this much bigger role this year, and as he said, he believes that the most important thing is winning, and he's ready to help the team do that. But he also knows that nothing is guaranteed, and just because the Eagles are expected to be a great team this year doesn't mean that's just automatically gonna happen. So when he went on Good Morning Football back in May, he made sure to make it clear that he himself and the team are staying hungry and keeping the same approach as they had last year.
It's a lot of hype, and it's very exciting though. You guys have earned it. You deserved it, It is what it is. I don't think we look at, we got a lot of underdogs on the team, a lot of people who play with a lot of chips on their shoulders, so we'll never sit back and act like we're the ones to target on our back.
You don't watch NFL.com power rankings, see Eagles won, and then kick back and say, why even play the game? We're good?
Never that. We definitely not, we don't look at that like we got the target on our back. We look at it like we the ones out there hunting.
So it definitely does seem like Dean is taking the correct approach to his newfound role, and he really does seem ready for it. Now, going back to the article, it mentions how Didinger only has a couple concerns with Dean, one being his height, as he is a little on the smaller side, and the other one being that he can be over-aggressive at times and over-pursue, which I personally think that second thing is just something that Dean will learn to be better at over time, and it really doesn't concern me too much. And of course, no player's ever going to be perfect, and then with the height thing, that doesn't really bother me either, because he's talented enough to overcome that. We've seen smaller linebackers succeed in this league before, and overall, Didinger said that he just couldn't find very many weaknesses with Dean, and his strengths far outweigh them. I mean, multiple people, including Didinger, have drawn comparisons between Nakobe Dean and NFL Hall of Famer Ray Lewis, which, I mean, while those may be some crazy expectations to live up to, and none of us should expect that from him, if he even becomes half of that, he's going to have tremendous success in this league. And I do think that it's fair to expect Dean to be successful and for him to be a difference maker for this Eagles defense in 2023, and he might just be the key to unlocking this unit's full potential. So what do you guys think? Just how good can Nakobe Dean be this season, and what kind of numbers do you think he'll put up? Let me know down in the comments. Now, Nakobe Dean isn't going to be the only player crucial to the success of the Eagles defense this year, and while he has made recent headlines, so have some other guys, and we're going to get to all of that in this video. But just real quick here, I want to say, if you are enjoying this video and want to see others like it coming in the future, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Around 80% of the people that watch these videos are not subscribed. If you're one of those people, you've been consistently watching the videos, you're enjoying them, and you love the Philadelphia Eagles, make sure you fix that right now. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss when any videos are uploaded in the future. I think that's a win-win for the both of us. And now with that being said, let's get back into the video. So arguably the best player on the Eagles defense in 2022 was edge rusher Hassan Reddick, as he had a career-high 16 sacks last year in his first year with the Eagles, which was good for the second most sacks in the entire league. And there were plenty of times throughout the season that he made game-changing plays and really was just able to take over games. So recently, he has received some very well-deserved respect, as Jeremy Fowler of ESPN did his yearly survey of NFL coaches, players, and executives to find out what they believe are the top 10 players at each position, and Hassan Reddick ended up being ranked the number 5 edge rusher in the NFL, with the passage stating, quote, "He's a closer," an NFC executive said. 3 years, 3 teams, double-digit sacks back to back to back. That's an impossible stat. Reddick's 5 forced fumbles for the Eagles led the NFL, and his 27.5 pass rush win rate ranks second. This is the perfect case of talent entering into the proper situation where he's used correctly, an NFL personnel evaluator said. And in addition to that, Nick Shook recently ranked the top 10 disruptors in the NFL in 2022, and Reddick landed at number 4 on that list. As the article said, Reddick was an absolute machine in 2022, recording 16 sacks, 3 turnovers caused by pressure, and a QB pressure rate north of 15%. Folks who watched him in his one-season stint in Carolina, 2021, could see this coming. Unfortunately for Philadelphia's opponents, they didn't see it soon enough. In 2022, Reddick was undeniable. He was all but inevitable, and at $15 million per year, he's a steal for the Eagles. I mean, it's great to seeing Reddick get his respect, but still, with all the recent praise he's received, I still feel like Reddick is a little bit underrated, and I'm not saying that that's the case amongst players or coaches or even the media, but I think that among NFL fans, when you ask who are the best pass rushers in the league, I'm not sure Reddick is a name that comes to mind, despite him being as good as he is, and as good as he has been over the course of the past 3 years, all with different teams. Now, maybe because of him switching teams constantly, NFL fans don't know him as well, I guess, maybe, I'm not exactly sure. But now that he's going to be in his second year in Philly and he's been working like crazy this offseason to get even better, I think that this could be the year that NFL fans realize just how great this guy is, if they haven't already. So what do you think Reddick's sack total is going to be in 2023? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But now, speaking of Eagles edge rushers, we got to talk about Brandon Graham, as he did something last year that no one is really talking about. Now obviously we know that he was able to somehow get a career high 11 sacks after tearing his Achilles just the year before and being 34 years old. But did you know that he was also the highest graded Eagles player in 2022 according to PFF, as he graded out with a 89.8 rating last year? And Marcus Mosher of PFF expanded on what made this so impressive, as he said, quote, "Graham played only 474 snaps this season, as the Eagles did a fantastic job of rotating their pass rushers. Plus, it's easy to limit snaps for someone like Graham when you rotate him with Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick, and Robert Quinn, but Graham finished the season as the number 5 edge rusher in the league with a 22.9% win rate. 5th best in the NFL. I mean, that's just insane that BG was able to do that given the circumstances. And now he'll look to have another season in which he plays a big role for the Eagles defense. And another guy who we know will have a big role for the defense in 2023 is Josh Sweat. And in that same article, Mosher detailed how Sweat was the Eagles' biggest surprise in terms of grading in 2022, saying, quote, "Sweat was the 7th highest graded edge rusher this season, totaling 13 sacks on just 356 pass rush snaps. He played only 587 snaps this season due to a heavy rotation on the defensive line and was still able to hit double-digit sacks." Now those stats were obviously with the postseason included, but it's still very impressive what Sweat was able to do last year on the Eagles' stacked defensive line. And really, if you look back at Sweat's whole career, it's highly impressive, considering that he went from a 4th-round pick that got essentially no playing time to now being one of the best pass rushers in the NFL. I mean, if only rookie Josh Sweat could see what he's doing now. And speaking of rookies on the Eagles defensive line, we gotta talk about Jalen Carter, because he was recently put on a list made by Cody Benjamin of CBS Sports where he picked 10 defensive players who could have the biggest impact on the 2023 season. And in the article, Benjamin said, quote, "Carter may not be asked to single-handedly fill Hargrave's shoes with Fletcher Cox, Milton Williams, and Jordan Davis also on the interior, but his tantalizing combo of size, 6'3", 214, speed and strength could be unleashed as a situational force. Philly is returning plenty of Super Bowl starters, and his addition could retain their spark." I mean, what Benjamin said there is a really good point, and Carter's presence on this list alone just continues to add to the long list of hype and praise given to Carter all offseason, and the anticipation just keeps building for him. I mean, I personally think that Carter's going to be a beast in whatever role he's given, and I just can't wait to see him in action this year. Now, obviously, I just went over a bunch of guys on the Eagles defensive line that have been making headlines recently, but the Eagles cornerback duo was also given some recent praise, as the tandem of Slay and Bradberry was recently ranked as the #1 cornerback duo in the entire NFL by David Kenyon of Bleacher Report, which really, there should be no argument there, as these two were absolutely shut down last year, and statistically, they were clearly the best cornerback duo in the league. Now the article says, quote, "Slay struggled during his team debut in 2020, but has since yielded no more than 6.7 yards per target. Bradberry has long been an effective NFL player. Last season, though, the 2022 free agent pickup had a career best year. Bradberry clamped down on his responsibility at a stellar 4.4 yards per target, and he secured second-team All-Pro recognition for the performance." So now heading into this year, these two will look to have dominant seasons once again, and it can only help that they have this incredible defensive line to help them out, as well as a potential breakout star and leader at linebacker in Nakobe Dean, who, like I said, might just be the key to unlocking the Eagles' defense's full potential this year. I mean, overall, this defense as a whole is just going to be so exciting to watch, and we're going to get our first official look at them in pads when training camp rolls around here in a couple weeks, and we're going to be covering that with a bunch of videos, shorts, and live streams, so if you don't want to miss any of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel again, so you don't miss any videos covering that or anything else regarding the Philadelphia Eagles or the NFL coming in the future. Also, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you show some support and drop a like on it, and let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think that Nakobe Dean is the key to unlocking this Eagles defense's full potential this year? Or just leave a comment regarding anything that I talked about in this video. And if you want to watch another video talking about 7 Philadelphia Eagles that have huge expectations ahead of training camp, you can go watch it right here. Now, with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.